Is wonderful to be together with all of you to see what new experience might emerge, might be shared together in this new day, this new moment. I've had much time to think about what would be most useful to share with you and for others who might read these words or see the video later. And part of it relates to recent happenings here in the US, particularly the election we had a few weeks ago. And because of that, since then, there has been much reaction to those results. Many of us, I'm sure, have talked about that with people close to us, and certainly that discussion is apparent on social media. Actually, one thing that came to mind in relation to that is the phrase, keep on keeping on. And I thought that I heard someone in a recent service of a few months back say that, but I had a look and it wasn't on the video. Maybe I heard it somewhere else. At any rate, you having had such substance and experience, including many of you experience in leadership positions in years past and continuing now, find it easy to keep on keeping on. There are some top 40 songs with titles like that. Keep on trucking, carry on. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young did that one. We take these effects as they come and we deal with them in a way that the level of our awareness allows us to. But there may also be some spiritual muscle that's needed to be strengthened. And I find that in these days, as awareness expands and what we could call the new heaven expands in our experience, it causes us to stretch so that we can act creatively in new ways. The reaction to the election and various events that have continued since then, unrelated to the election. There are wars and conflicts ongoing, among other things. reminded me of something from the Bhagavad Gita, and you may already know what I'm going to read. I'm sure many or most of you are familiar with this passage, where Krishna is talking to Arjuna, and Krishna says, when one, O Pritha's son, abandoning desires which shake the mind, finds in his soul full comfort for his soul, he hath attained the yoga. That man is such, in sorrows not dejected, and enjoys not overjoyed, dwelling outside the stress of passion, fear, and anger, fixed in calms of lofty contemplation. Such an one is Muni, is the sage, the true recluse, he who to none and nowhere overbound by ties of flesh, takes evil things and good, neither desponding nor exulting. Such bears wisdom's plainest mark. If one deals with objects of the sense, not loving and not hating, making them serve his free soul, which rests serenely Lord or lady, lo, such a man or woman comes to tranquility, and out of that tranquility shall rise the end and healing of his earthly pains, since the will governed sets the soul at peace. In sorrows not dejected, and enjoys not overjoyed. Some people are really happy about the election results, and some are very concerned about what could happen in the next 4 years. And that's to be expected in any kind of change. Yoronda also said something that I think relates to this, and this is a portion of a class he gave on May 4th, 1954, called What is Perfect Function? So Robert, if you would play that, please.
In this connection, we recall the text, all things work together to perfection for those who love and serve the Lord. All things work together to perfection for those who love and serve the Lord. This does not mean that everything is going to be the way you would like it to be. Does not mean that it's going to be comfortable and entirely satisfactory to the concepts of your mind, or that you will have what you want, when you want it, the way you want it. It means that even though human beings may think evil and try to produce evil, even though there may be many things that are not according to the right pattern of function in relationship to your own personal problems, your own personal life, and your relationships to others, it will be cause to bring forth a blessing if you stay centered and let it be so. The human mind is inclined to judge and say, well, now this is against me. That I do not like. The other thing is contrary to God's will. Suppose Joseph had said, when he was in the pit and heard his brothers talking about selling him as a slave, he had said, well, now I know it isn't God's will that my brothers should sell me. What an insulting the ill thing. The ill thing, whatever it may be or may have been, is not and was not necessary. But since that is the case, by reason of human function, God can and does use it to advantage. It's a process of outmaneuvering man. If you function effectively with God, regardless of the oppositions and the difficulties and the problems that arise, either now or in the days of your ministry that are ahead of you, you will find that staying centered, God is capable of outmaneuvering man, outmaneuvering the intents and purposes of human beings, so that he can cause that which man does to bring forth a blessing. But it does not mean that you're going to have it all the way along the way you think you would like to have it. It will not be the best that could be, probably in many respects, but all things work together to perfection for those who truly love and serve the Lord. And what is perfection? I believe you've studied this somewhat in your classwork. But perhaps it would be well to re-emphasize it a little. What is perfection? Perfection is not, as far as we are concerned, some ideal future state. As far as we are now concerned, the Edenic state, that which is to be after the restoration is complete, is not perfection. What is perfection? As far as we are concerned now, perfection is right function under the circumstances as they are. The right attitude in meeting the problems that arise and dealing with them. Right function in circumstances as they are is perfection. In other words, we use perfection in dealing with that which is not right. And we do not have to have everything right in order to have perfection. If you think that you have to have everything right all around you in order to function in perfection, you're wrong. You do not. You learn to function in perfection in relationship to all adverse things, all ill things, all things that are not as they ought to be. It does not take a perfect environment in the sense of having everything on a perfectly pleasing basis to function in perfection. That which is perfect today probably wouldn't be perfect tomorrow, probably would not have been perfect yesterday. That which is perfect today is the right meeting of the situation as it is today, including all of the ill things, all of the adverse factors. We must not think of perfection as a fixed and as something that simply does. The perfections of God are forever changing. We may say there are perfect basic laws that never change. Yes, those laws do not change, but the patterns of their application are forever changing. And it is because of this that human beings so readily develop false concepts about what the perfect law is. They see it's working in a given circumstance, and they jump to a conclusion. This is the eternal law. All they have seen is an application of its working in relationship to a specific condition. And, generally speaking, the human vision is not great enough to comprehend all of the factors which were being dealt with in that specific application of the perfect law.
I suppose many, if not all of us, can think of aspects in our lives that do not appear to be perfect. On the other hand, I know that the heavenly experience, to describe it that way, is perfect, and we know it to be perfect, and we share that experience and knowing. I could wish that I hadn't had the flu this weekend, but there wasn't much I could do about that. And perhaps my thinking would be a little clearer if I didn't have that flu. But these conditions that we deal with, each in our own way, are part of the human condition at this time, although we've seen that it is changing. Perhaps for some people, one aspect of perfection would be living a long life. And that caused me to think about how if humanity allows a greater experience of what has been called the new heaven to emerge, that could result in a new earth or new earth experience, possibly allowing people to live longer lives. We have the record in the Bible, anyway, of how various people lived nearly 1,000 years of age. I think it was in the book of Genesis. And they mentioned several men who lived between 900 and 1,000 years, which is quite something. Interestingly, no women are mentioned in that regard, but I would have to think, all things being equal, that women live just as long. I think in the record of the Bible, Sarah is considered the oldest woman who lived to an age of 127 years. I'd like to read something that Martin wrote or said in a service called The Elders in 1986. And he began this passage by talking about human perdition and saying, everybody perishes. It's been done generation after generation after generation. And he went on to say, I am the Lord thy God, and I would willingly bring you out of that state. I provide everything that is necessary to do it, except you have to make the choice. It is in making that choice to let consciousness be restored to heaven, which requires relinquishing the subconscious controls, that the way is opened for everybody else. The door is opened in heaven if somebody will actually let it be done. Well, I can't. I have all these earthly responsibilities here. Got to take care of them. Yes, we have to take care of things, but not at the expense of what is required to abide in heaven, to let the consciousness be lifted to heaven so that it can see what needs to be done. But if one is being pulled this way and pulled that way by earthly heredity, he can't see anything. Such a person is blind and in a state of destruction. some of us have been noticing and have spoken of how it seems like what we've called the new heaven has been expanding, growing in size, becoming more purified, of finer quality. And I suppose in simple terms, the new heaven can be described as the space in awareness that is yielded to the current of life in every moment. To know that the qualities of love and truth are of our true nature and are part of our expression of the current of life as we manifest it in everything we do. And it is an irresistible force. The more we dwell there and know that our being is truly there, the more we want to be true to that experience, be true to the source of life, and allow that experience to expand. It's true, we have things to take care of in our daily lives. But if a new experience is to occur in human lives, it will only happen if we allow love and truth to be prominent above all, for true cause to be prominent above effects. In some of my reading, one other thing that I read of Martin's is how he said, we should have at least as much heavenly flesh as we do earthly flesh. And that seems right. That would make for a very large person, able to do wondrous things. And that's my sensing, that it is becoming a larger place collectively, and that's because it's happening individually. I don't think that heaven will come because of human government. We know how slowly things have worked in the human world the way it is. So clearly something different is needed. There is change, but it's very slow, and we know the transcendent quality of our beings and of our fellows. I'd also like to share part of a video of a service Martin gave in 1982 called the Magnitude of Our Significance. So Robert, if you would please play that.
What is your awareness of the magnitude of your own significance? We have noted how petty human beings are. They're always fiddling around with little things that mean nothing. Well, there are things we have to take care of, but we see them in proportion. We never exalt them as though they were of some tremendous significance, because they're not. There is something that is of significance. And that is what is emerging of one's own expression of that creative spirit. That is a part, one might say, of a whole, and yet is not separate from the whole. It's not as though a person, well, I got a little piece of the action here. A little piece of the whole action. No, it's the whole action. You can't separate, you can't divide it up. There is one spirit moving, of vast magnitude. It has been completely incomprehensible to so-called conscious human minds. But now, to the extent that there is an emergence in the expression of that spirit, the mind begins to awaken to what it is, and to be in position to see with perspective what is happening. Now, how could one become involved in the nonsensical pettiness in which human beings everywhere continue to indulge? Well, we can understand why they do it, because they don't have any awareness of what is absent. But we do. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for us. We know. And only as we accept the responsibility of that knowing may we comprehend the magnitude of what it is with which we are individually associated and for which we are individually responsible.
He's right. There is a responsibility for those who see and know to convey that seeing and knowing to others. To speak the truth, to say it like it really is. So that the light shines. And the darkness of human misery can fade away, allowing for an experience of life. And I think we're touching into the magnitude that he spoke of, the largeness of an experience that is available to us, but not just us, anybody. So it's wonderful to share these things and discuss these ideas. And if anyone has anything that they would like to say about what's been shared or their current experience, feel free.
Stewart, I would. Thank you very much for being the mouthpiece and the heart piece that delivered this beautiful spirit this morning and evening for all of us and with all of us. No matter if you had flu or not, it came out loud and strong and beautiful. And I was thinking of the phrase, "For this cause came I." It doesn't matter, flu, uh, election results, whatever's going on in the world, of course, for this cause, it doesn't matter, because we have the strength to be in the right place at the right time and offering the message in ways that can be received, and that magnificence of being, whatever it is, we bring heaven. We let people touch heaven because of our spirit in little things throughout the day, big things, every opportunity. And I was thinking of you too. You are a radio broadcaster and beautiful voice that carries more than whatever words that you need to say to your audience. The spirit is carried. And I'm thinking people in stressful situations, they seek refuge in like massage or yoga, or there's one recently, sound bath. And I was thinking of you with that, because it is a sound bath. The vibration of spirit coming through the voice is healing, is assuring, is reminding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart, I loved your service. The pace of it, I felt, allowed me to really directly gaze into your eyes and to feel your being. And I thought it was just so beautiful how you said after Martin, he's right. And also your emphasis that telling it like it is important. And particularly what stands out to me is the way you develop this from what Martin had said about God has offered us the opportunity to live in the new heaven, but we have to make the choice. And I love the way you described the new heaven is the space in awareness yielded to the current of life in every moment. That was beautiful. And also regarding the election results, they were different than what I voted for. And I found initially, to my surprise, I had a feeling of peace and joy when I heard it. And the reason was that I felt the restoration is coming more quickly. That's my view. But I did notice that a couple of nights I had dreams that showed me that there are still subconscious controls of concern about how things are going. So this matter of making the choice for the consciousness to be restored to heaven, we do that by relinquishing the subconscious controls that keep us entangled in the earth. So thank you for demonstrating that. I felt you really did that, flu or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stewart, thank you so much. Lovely to be with you this morning and everybody. I loved what Martin said about questioning our significance, or at least taking a look at it. One of the problems in our world is, in order to have significance, you have to have money, you have to have a position, and you have to have an education. And many, many people have none of those. And so the way the world is formed, they have no significance. But we know truly, truly, that is not so. I have been visited lately by many memories of how significant my service has been over these years. You know, someone comes to you and says, wow, when you said that, I never forgot it. And you can't even remember what you said. But all of us have stood tall and straight and been significant within the context of what we know and what we have been taught. And that's a wondrous thing. And now, in these days where nothing makes any sense anymore, it seems, my significant, clear, light expression does make sense. And it's the only thing that does. And that is the calming waters for the whole world. And as a body, when we do that, truly do it and love one another truly, without any thought of anything but love, that's very significant on the earth in this day, on this very date. Thank you, Stewart.
Thank you.
Yes, Stewart, as Pam and Laura made clear, it's not whether or not we're speaking through the flu or whether we're astute in coming forth with the greatest of all, exposition of the truth. It really, as Laura was just indicating, word is getting back to me, for instance, but it's also the case with others I know, like my wife, Terry. Word is coming back that, we are having an effect. And oftentimes we don't even know it. And that's the crazy thing about it, is that if we did know it, it would probably not be working. I was talking to some people the other day, and the conversation had drifted into the area of fear. I mean, real fear about the election results and the way the society is going and so forth. And I just said, I've got this thought that it really is so easy. You know how when you were a kid, you looked up to your father for a boy or mother maybe for a girl or vice versa, but you looked up and everything felt fine. You could start to deal with, how do I act here, react or whatever, because it's really okay. And I said, that's really the way it is with the truth. The source of love, the source of truth is what we looked up to continuously. And we don't have bandwidth left to look at all the fearsome, monsters that are out there. Well, that changed the entire conversation. And it turns out that it's not an unknown thing among any of my friends anyway. They can immediately grasp onto that, the simple truth of looking up and acting as if we have crossed through the door of heaven and are living in a world that is totally from the word. Anyway, thank you very much, Stewart. I'm really excited by how you brought that out and brought it to point today.
Thank you, Robert.
This is a very learning experience for me in many ways. First of all, I didn't realize that at a certain point I could have heard the sound. I was waiting for it to happen, and it didn't happen. So, and then I won't say I was disappointed. I was having a lovely time checking in on all the photos of the people who were present, and some of whom I haven't seen for years, some I've seen more recently, but it brought up a big rush of gratitude for me that there are so many who have stayed the course, and this is a selection of the people who are on this call now, and the genuineness that I experience with each of these people. The ones I know, I've had that experience before, and I don't need to take my own words apart. I need to move on a bit. What I wanted to say was, it occurred to me that every day and the hours of every day are opportunities to be grateful and remind myself, if I need to, of what I know. Not what I think I know, but what I know and put into practice over a period of time. And how I don't need to be. I just had recently a message from someone who's, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll just say, who has grown up now and has had the experience of loving what the emissaries are about, because they're not preachy. It's a matter of coming out as who you are. That expression has taken a different form, I know, over the years, but yeah, coming out, we're in there. Each of us is in there, and we can come out, and we can come out without fear, as long as we're not thinking that we know everything that someone else should know. I think that's enough for me now. I've had an amazing experience of this service when I expected to be listening to a service, and not only I wasn't able to, because I didn't figure out the technology, but I had to depend on what I already knew and enjoy things just exactly as they were, with all these friends whose photos, whose pictures are here in front of me to be joyful about. And that's the absolute truth of my experience for this past hour or so.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I'm thinking about fear. And thank you, Stuart, for everything you brought. Of course, the topic is in our faces at the moment is the election result. But I sat quietly with that. And the first thing that came to my consciousness was everything plays into the hands of the creative process. Everything is in the Lord's hands. All these things work to perfection for those who love and serve the Lord. And I'm not personalizing this in any way. I know that the Lord will take advantage of no matter what is working out. There was mention recently of a quickening. I think that's an excellent description of the intensification that I'm certainly experiencing. I was out today shopping in a supermarket. It's chaos out there. That's absolute chaos. And I thought, this is typical of what's chaotic everywhere. But my overriding feeling is one not dissimilar to what Marsha was saying of peace and absolute sense of assurance that this is all working out exactly as it should, in a way. In Martin's way of saying that all these things happen, they may not be nice, they may be terrible things, but they're working out as they should, given the creative process and how human beings are functioning. I don't feel concerned for this, maybe because I'm not right in the middle of the chaos every day of every minute of every day. But I do have a responsibility for staying God-centered, steadfast, stable, keeping consciousness in heaven, because that's the part I can play to steady the ship, for want of a better expression. And that's the part I think we all are playing individually and collectively. And that is no small thing. I think that's the collective significance of what comes about because we are amongst those who love and serve the Lord. And he can operate through that means because there are ones doing this. So I can't say, I have no fear, honestly, in the depth of my being, I have no fear. I'm made very uncomfortable out there, but I'm not afraid. She says famous last words. We'll see what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you, Davina.
I loved that you brought the quote, all things work together to perfection for those who love and serve the Lord. It didn't say love, all things work together to perfection just any old way. It does take those who love and serve the Lord to provide a steady space, a control pattern on earth. That is our job, from what I understood. And the way that we do that is the steadiness that others have mentioned in themselves, regardless of what outcome seems to be at the moment. And there have been some interesting developments here in the United States since the election, but it doesn't matter. My experience was when I heard the results, okay, I'm getting up tomorrow morning, the sun will be shining, and I will be living my life just as I always do. And whatever comes, I can rest in the knowledge that all things are working together to perfection because I and many, many other people do love and serve the Lord. And so the other thing that is a corollary of that is not to judge by the surface appearance of things, because the surface appearance may look pretty crazy, as others have mentioned. But just having that assurance of resting in the Lord and knowing no matter what it looks like, that is, as we stay centered, all things will be well. All things are well already within us. And I have such great confidence and assurance in the power of the spiritual expression of the Lord on earth. Thank you so much for what you brought this morning.
Thank you.
I think that there are three words that precede that phrase, and they are, and we know all things work to perfection for those who love and serve the Lord. We do know, and we're here to let the glory of the knowledge of the Lord fill the earth. In our own immediate circumstances, but we are also aware of the significance of coming together with one heart, one mind, one purpose in the expression of the quality and character of the one we serve. So, Stewart, I have to confess I'm sharing your respiratory situation. And it's just perfect. Nothing to get all concerned about, but just we do what we need to do as we need to do it, and things unfold as they should. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Stuart, I've been thinking of truisms and adages and sayings. And when you said keep on keeping on, another version of that was it is what it is. And thinking about that, what it is through our eyes is the knowledge that the old, what it is, what's happening is the old heaven and the old earth passing away. And then with the serenity prayer, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change. What you cannot change is that it is happening. Life goes on. And that, which was what Krishna was counseling Arjuna, to have the serenity to not react in overjoy or over depression. And the serenity prayer goes on to say the courage to change what I can change. That's the heart, that's the love occur from the heart to respond accordingly with perfection, right action, despite what's going on, the old heaven and the old earth falling away. And the wisdom to know the difference between what I can control and what I can't control, the wisdom is the assurance, the knowing that we've all felt and affirmed today, how to respond in love. With Davina, you mentioned the quickening, reference to the quickening. The question that followed was what's integrating? And for me, that is, what does loving and serving the Lord look like? And actually being able to do that with love, truth, and love. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think I'll follow my cousin there if there's still time, Stuart. You've just posed some wonderful questions for us to meditate on, I think, today. And I think it's not happenstance that we're going into Thanksgiving weekend, where we're all going to be probably with family. And as with this greater body of the United States, families get into tug-of-wars with one another very often. Hence the Republican and Democratic turmoil. But I think for me, just the phrase, the sun shines on the just and the unjust. And it is, if we truly are postulating that we do love and serve the Lord, well, we must let our light shine on the difficult situations as well as the joyful ones. Now, the joyful ones are a great delight. But, for me, I realize that there is some work for me to do. Like you said, there is work for us to do in actually being true to letting my light flow freely, and not having preconceived notions as to who benefits from it and who doesn't, because that is not the way of the Lord. So I appreciate the opportunity for some refinement, and I know that that is all part of the new heaven that is emerging. So thank you so much, Stuart.
Thank you.
I want to pick up on that reference to the fact that it's the one sun that is shining on the earth, all through the earth. I loved what Martin said about there's one spirit moving. This brings me comfort to know that there's one spirit moving through all people, the whole planet. And the question is, how are we going to respond to that spirit? And we can see that there's a range of kinds of response to the powerful urge towards integration, wholeness that's moving through the whole universe. And we can see the ranges that happen when that power starts to move. And I agree that there's an increased pace happening with that power moving through the whole system. And so the question is, how are we really responding to where the action is? And I appreciated what you said about what we can control, what is ours to control. Because we think the action is happening in the White House, in wherever. But the action that's really happening is right here in our own hearts and minds. And that is, I think, quite active, quite dynamic. And when that's actually taken care of with continual sanctification, I'm finding, then you can step out into the world in a state of wholeness and peace, and then you can be of use to release that spirit, wherever it fits. But the real action tends to be what's not seen. Just like in our bodies, you look at a body, there's a body, but inside that body, there's so much happening. Well, yes, there's a lot happening in this body right now. A lot is coming to issue. And this is cause for great celebrating, actually, and dealing with each thing that does come to us that is our responsibility. And it gets closer and closer and closer, I find. Let all those things be dissolved. All those patterns and habits and crusts and all those things, I mean, they are right inside of us. And it's so exciting to just keep doing that dynamic work, I find. And it's encouraging. It's really encouraging that these things are coming to issue. As we used to say all the time, and let's say it today, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for that one spirit that's moving through the whole. And we get to play a part in that. So great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Anne.
Anne, you were talking about the one spirit, and I was looking at the 35 faces and groups that are on this call. And I was thinking it's like watching 35 different TV shows at the same time, and 35 different sitcoms maybe. And it's a good feeling. So thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed what each of you have said. Thank you so much for speaking, adding your voice, and sharing your experience, your thoughts and feelings. We need each other to do what needs to be done. And I'm sure you've been places and experience that I haven't been, have more experience in certain areas than I do. And so we share, and it's very enjoyable to share in that way. And I think we're all the better for it. what you have said has been profound, and it would be hard for me to kind of tie it all up because so many great things were said by you. I guess one thing I would say is that I appreciate the mention of control, especially as there is the dissolution of various elements of the human nature world. And it does seem that that is quickening in some ways. And because many people are affected by that, we who know the truth and have experienced the nature and quality of love and truth can offer reassurance to those in our worlds that there is something trustworthy and constant in life, and they can know it too. So it's been a great time, and to close, I have a very short piece of music that I thought fits with what Martin was saying about the magnitude of our significance and the magnitude of the experience of heaven on earth. And this is a short piece from Igor Stravinsky from The Firebird. So Robert, if you would please play that.